Welcome to You Know Ball. Today we are with Marcus Johnson from Tape Don't Lie. We're going to be talking some Raiders ball. Marcus, how you doing today?
Good. How you guys doing? Thanks for having me on.
Of course, yeah, we're doing
Glad
good.
to have you.
So, as always, if you don't know ball and want to know ball, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, let us know in the comments your favorite and least favorite draft pick from the Raiders this year. So, first kind of question we have is we'll move kind of chronologically through the questions. So, kind of what was your favorite move for the Raiders in free agency this year?
Look, I think the best one was Christian Wilkins. I think that was the obvious one. They went out and paid big money for him, probably more than they should have, to bring him in. That's something Tom Telesco does a lot, is overpay a little bit. But he brought in a huge need for them. They have Max Crosby, Malcolm Koonce. They had pretty damn good years last year. Malcolm Koonce had about 52 pressures in about 8 games that he played. And, of course, Max Crosby gets like 90 or 200 a season at this point. So they have those two ends there. And then, of course, Tyree Wilson, he'll mix in there at some point. But Christian Wilkins kind of just solidifies that defensive line. That pass rush should be one of the best in football if everybody stays healthy. So, that's the thing. You want health and kind of those things so we can project how good they will be, but they got to play the snaps together. But the potential is crazy for that defensive line, and it'll really help the secondary, make the secondary probably play better than they actually are. But I think that piece, adding him and then putting all your money into him too a little bit, kind of lifted up this defensive line and will make the defense that at the end of the year when Antonio Pierce came in, they were a top 5 defense in every stat. So if you add that pass rush and make it even better, it's A+ for them. So I really liked what they did in free agency with bringing in Christian Wilkins.
I think that was kind of me and Dobbs' initial reaction with the Christian Wilkins move is we really liked it, but we're like, oh my Lord, that's so much money on the D line. And Dobbs, you kind of want to go into your quarterback or cornerback depth question because I think he kind of, transitioned it pretty well there.
No, yeah, for sure. I was going to say, because I would say, that's funny you say, because there was we could have transitioned to a few different questions that I had ready right off the bat off that. So no, I would say, but yeah, we'll go to that one next. So my question for you, Marcus, is does the Raiders cornerback depth worry you at all? Just because it's not, again, you guys have a lot of bodies in that room, but not a lot of, proven guys, a lot of guys that are younger, still trying to prove themselves. Are you worried about the depth in there? Or are you confident with the guys you have?
I'm a little worried about the depth. To be honest, just kind of seeing how the Raiders were navigating in the free agency and in the draft. They didn't really go after any, I would say, high caliber cornerbacks. There's still some decent cornerbacks out there in free agency, like Xavier Howard. I think Adonis Jackson's out there. Some of those type of players are still out there. Steven Nelson, somebody I really liked. It's a kind of an older player that's always solid wherever he goes. He might get beat a little bit, but he's always pretty good of a player. I really want them to go get him because the secondary right now is just young. I would say that. It's kind of unproven. Jack Jones had some great plays at the end of the year last year, but against the Colts he was very bad. He's pretty bad against the Colts, so he's obviously a little up and down. He's not going to be a shutdown corner for you, even though he'll make a lot of plays for you. So the opposite of him is kind of we don't know exactly who that's going to be. They have Jacorian Bennett there. Jacorian Bennett take the next step. He's a 4th round pick. That's a little rough. The draft picks that they brought in, like Devonshire and Richardson. Richardson is very raw. Didn't have a lot of turnovers, but Devonshire is the opposite. Definitely doesn't move like Richardson does, but he has more ball production. So we'll see how that the cornerback room ends up. They're signing a lot of wide receivers right now. I kind of expect them to kind of go after that cornerback market because they need some type of player that is at least a veteran that we know is going to come in to be solid right away.
No, that's what I was thinking too. But just like you're saying also, look, the reality is you still got, you still got Nate Hobbs, like you just said about Jones. Jack Jones, he splash play guy, but I still think he can make that leap for you guys, only coming into his 3rd season. There's definitely still a lot of room for improvement there. And then, yeah, because as of right now on the depth chart, I know that the other starting cornerback listed here is it's going to be Jacorian Bennett. But yeah, again, we're still so early in the process of the season that, it can change. It'll be interesting to see where you guys go though. Because yeah, no, you guys don't have the deepest room, but like you said, I think there'll be some additions made, some changes made. It'll be interesting to monitor that situation.
Exactly.
So, kind of going off what Dobbs is talking about in terms of like possibly Jack Jones taking that leap outside of Jack Jones, or maybe it is Jack Jones for you. What Raider do you think makes the biggest leap this year? Is this something that Tyree Wilson that you're kind of feeling like he's going to improve, or where are you headed with that?
To me, I still think it'll be Malcolm Kuntz. I think Malcolm Kuntz is going to be a defensive end that is known across the league by the end of the year. I think he has some bend that is rare. Bending around the corner for a defensive end is important. And, some of the best defensive ends in the league. I mean, Von Miller had crazy bend. Robert Quinn, he had like 18 sacks like 3 times. And one of the reasons is the bend that they have. And, Malcolm Kuntz has been like kind of almost like they do. I mean, it's hard for me to say, but there's a couple times against the Chiefs last year and the year when he's making some of those plays that he was dragging across the ground. So I think that he's going to make a huge leap. He's a better run defender than we ever thought he was going to be. He's bigger, he's stronger, and he was let loose. That's why, Tyree Wilson is kind of he's got to get in where he fits in, I believe, because I think Malcolm Kuntz, he took a little leap, right? And now he's basically paying to get paid. I mean, let's keep it real. He's in his contract year. It's his 4th year in the NFL. He's a 3rd-round pick. He's playing to get paid right now. So I expect a monster year for him because he's chasing money too. It's just not like about the skills. And we know NFL players, they can say whatever they want, but money is still a big deal to them. And he is chasing a paycheck. I mean, because if he has a big year, he's going to get paid a lot of money. So I think he's going to take that leap and he's going to be a household name for just the NFL around the NFL. Everybody's going to know who Malcolm Kuntz is. And I think they're going to be a duo that is going to dominate in the AFC, him and Max Crosby. So I really like that duo and then working together. And I think Kuntz is going to take that next step.
His job is definitely easier with Wilkins and Crosby playing on the same defensive line. Like not easy way to get paid, but it definitely is not as hard as it would be if Christian Wilkins wasn't there.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to say, I know you had Christian Wilkins in the middle, eating up all those double teams. It's just one-on-ones a lot of time for Kuntz and Crosby. I want to say, too, because you already answered one of my questions. I was going to ask you, what type of leap you thought Kuntz was going to make this year. Just some context for everybody who doesn't already know. I'm sure, a lot of Raiders fans know. But for those who didn't, I mean, in only 11 games started last year, the 3 forced fumbles, the 8 sacks, the 9 tackles for a loss, the 17 quarterback hits. Like, he's adding a ton of value for you guys in that 3rd season. Like you said, he's playing for that money this year. We always see guys usually playing their best ball when they're playing for that money. I was going to say, yeah, I'll change my question because I was going to say, if you expected a leap or if you expected something similar. Let me change the question. Here's a good one. How many sacks should we expect from Malcolm Kuntz this year, you thinking?
I don't want to go too high because I don't want to be crazy, but I would say at least 12. I'm going to go like 12, right? But I think if he plays how he ended the year last year, he could hit like 18. Like there's really that bend is crazy, and it's gonna take a while for NFL teams to be like, okay, this dude's a stud. Because I still don't think NFL teams are thinking that, and we might get later on to the season, and they might have a problem because they are gonna have a problem. They got Christian Wilkins, they got Max Crosby. Who do you double team? Because they're gonna be double teaming, Kuntz, not Kuntz, but Crosby early on, and Wilkins might win a little bit more too because they're gonna have to. Teams are worried about Crosby. Everybody knows about Max Crosby. He's one of those household names in the NFL at this point. And he's one of the most respected players in the NFL too, as well, because of his motor. So, big teams are going to be worried about him. That's why I think Kuntz, he gets at least 12. And Tyree Wilson's going to mix in there a little bit, but it's just going to be hard to keep Kuntz off the field because Kuntz plays the run now. He's kind of taking that step to play the run. And since that's happening, you can keep him on the field all game. But, him and Tyree Wilson will probably mix it up a little bit.
I was going to say, too, the way I pictured also, I don't know what you're thinking. Let me know what you think about this. But I think how I picture it this year for you guys is that whenever you guys come out in nickel, it'll probably be a heavy dose of trying to mix Tyree Wilson in there next to Wilkins so you can have all 4 of them out there at a time. You know what I mean? You got Wilkins eating up the double teams. You got Tyree next to him. And then on the outside, you can have Kuntz and Crosby just going crazy. I feel like that's something we'll probably see a lot of this year because if there's definitely, if there's a chance for Tyree to make that big jump that he could potentially make, I think it's going to come off of, learning and growing behind having those 3 guys kind of eat up any potential double team. So he's just getting one-on-ones consistently. And I think that's probably the quickest way we'll see him grow.
Yeah, for sure. Because I see Tyree Wilson kind of growing. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Jermaine Johnson from the Jets, But Jermaine Johnson didn't have a good rookie year, and then he was playing more inside, played outside a little bit, but he played more inside last year. He was dominant, right? And he kind of
Great
took a
comparison.
leap, right? And I think Tyree Wilson and Jermaine Johnson, they're kind of the same build a little bit. So if that leap might come from Tyree Wilson and him moving inside, he might have that Jermaine Johnson type of leaps, and that's what I'm hoping for.
No, yeah, when it comes to, having the ideal size of pass rushers just on that line for having four guys, that's certainly right. We throw Tyree in there all of a sudden. And he can really make a leap. That's an amazing four-man pass rush.
Yeah, for sure.
So moving in kind of to current Raiders and guys you picked up in free agency to the draft, I know the Brock Bowers pick. I've come around to it quite a bit. I actually really like the pick. But what was your favorite pick from the Raiders draft class this year?
Definitely Jackson Powers Johnson. I think getting him at 44 was a steal. That dude is such a stud on film. He gave up one pressure last year, the whole year. He's probably even better at run blocking than he is at pass protection, but he's really great at both. I mean, his pad level is a little high with pass protection, but, he could definitely work on that. It's just little small things that he'll have to change to become an all-pro. But I feel like he's a solid guard coming in right away. Like he's gonna be a solid guard, your average NFL guard that you put on a team and he plays pretty well against average competition. That's gonna be him coming into the NFL. So as he grows and gets better, that's where you might see some crazy seasons with him. A lot of people compared Bowers and Jackson Powers Johnson to drafting the Kelsey brothers. So there's a little bit to that, right? Because Bowers kind of reminds you of Travis Kelsey because he's more a receiver than blocker, right? And, Brock Bowers is kind of the same with Travis Kelsey. Travis Kelsey doesn't like to block. He just Brock Bowers, right? But JPJ, he's a stud at center. They have Andre James there right now, but James that they can get out of that contract next year if James doesn't perform well. He's a solid player, but I don't think he has the ceiling as Jackson Powers Johnson does as a center, right? Because he played center last year. He was a stud, and probably one of the best center in the draft. And I think that he has like that. He's a guy that I feel really comfortable with him becoming a great player.
That's kind of like the appeal to JPJ though, right? Is the fact that he has that like 3-position interior offensive line versatility. And Dobbs and I were kind of talking, you hopped on for a little bit there, but like the way the Raiders O-line has really kind of shaped out this offseason, like it's not the best in the world, but it's actually pretty decent. And like their depth is actually pretty good as well. I mean, even just adding like Andres Pete as one of the guards, like he's not amazing by any means, but he's a good player to have in your O-line room. And obviously whoever is playing quarterback is going to need a good offensive line. And even signing Gallup as your wide receiver 3, like I think a lot of people may underrate, even after losing Josh Jacobs, what the Raiders offense can be this year.
Yeah, especially if they can run the ball, and they're going to be on 12 personnel a lot with Brock Bowers, and they can run the football, they're going to be hard to stop. Minshew and O'Connell, they have their limitations, but even then, I mean, it's going to be hard for teams to match up personnel wise. And Aiden, especially Aiden O'Connell, I know he can hit an open guy. Like if somebody gets open, he can hit them. Devontae Adams did have some pretty good games with him. There's some up and down games. The Kansas City game, they're just ugly and things like that. But I would still expect him to, with some play action and a good running game, because Jackson Powers Johnson, he elevates the running game right away. I mean, it's going to be a way better run game. They ran the ball pretty damn well last year with Zamir White to end the season. So since they did that with Zamir White to end the season, I expect them to run the ball really well, which is going to put teams in a bad position when they're in 12 personnel all the time, and that's where they're going to have to be able to move the football. So I think that's the offensive line is going to be kind of the what I want to say, what holds this team together. And Colton Miller is a stud. He's definitely one of the most underrated players in the NFL overall. And then Dylan Parham is a solid player. Like I said, Andre James is a solid player. And then you have Jackson Powers Johnson. And then at right tackle you have Thayer Mumford. Who's a solid player too. I think that he's still got a little bit of work on. But I don't expect like DJ Glaze to take his spot or anything. So I kind of think the spot is already really his. He's gonna have to take the next step into his third year and show that he can be a starting right tackle full time.
No, and so I wanted to just say too, I'm so glad to hear that your favorite pick was Jackson Powers Johnson, because he actually rounded out as my 15th overall prospect out of this year's class, and seeing him fall as far as he did, kind of hurt me a little bit, bro. But I'm happy he fell to a spot where he's gonna get us, to get start right away, even though that very likely but he's gonna get to play for you guys right away, like you said, starting at guard. But you're gonna have an opportunity to move him over to center potentially in a year or so. And then also, if you saw the Andres Pete signing, I'm sure you saw that you guys just made today,
Hmm.
where I'm thinking what you guys are going to do with Pete, and again, I could be totally off base on this. What I'm thinking is it's going to be him versus Parham in camp. See who's playing better there, and then it's just kind of plug and play your best line. Because all of a sudden, whether it be Parham or whether it be Pete, I think all of a sudden, if that's your starting five, you
Yeah.
guys have a really really steady solid five. Like you're saying, they're kind of the glue to this whole team.
Yeah. To me, it is. They're going to be holding this team together, especially the offense. Now, if Pete beat out Parham, I'd be very concerned. I'd just be upset about Parham. Hopefully Parham would win that job. Because you want him to take another leap too. He got better from year one to year two, so I expect him to kind of take that leap. And that's what I like about the offensive line too, is that they're young. It's still a young offensive line. These guys, there's not a lot of old guys on this line. And young players that have played together, right? I mean, these guys have played Colt Miller, Andre James, and Dylan Parham, and even Thayer Mumford. They played together for 3 years now. These guys like a steady group. I mean, Colt Miller has played with Andre James for 4. So this is a offensive line that has a lot of continuity that you really like, and that's what you like from offensive line play. The guys just stick together. They're young, and I expect that growth. But that'll be interesting if RJ Pete bit him. I mean, it can happen, but I would be a little kind of like, oh man, how does this season go? If Barham's
Well,
not good.
I'll tell you as a Saints fan, no, he's coming from my squad to your squad. Like, look, Andres Pete can have a good game here and there. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
let's just say in the nicest way possible, it can get rough. It can get real
Mm-hmm.
rough. And this is why I want to ask you this. This is why I'm confused. And this is what I was talking to Hunter about before he popped on the call. I'm going through, Raiders social medias and I'm seeing what they're thinking in the news. And the consensus for with a lot of Raiders fans seems to be that they want Munford not playing on the right side, and they just want to kick Pete over to the right side. And again, Pete has never even played right tackle in his life. He was either left guard for us or he was left tackle.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know what I mean? Me personally, I'm not really understanding why a lot of Raiders fans would want that to be the case when, like you're saying, Munford has the continuity. And in my opinion, coming off of a real solid season last year, I don't know why Raiders fans would want Idris Pete over, Munford. That's really what that's my piece on this.
Yeah, Raiders fans, they kind of overreact to everything and expect every guy that gets signed is a starter. I mean, it feels like, that's what happened, like the Gardner Minshew thing, and a little bit of some of the Raiders media guy, they kind of buy into that. The signed Gardner Minshew, he's the starter. Like, and I don't know if that's the thing, and I really think this team really likes Aiden O'Connell way more than they put on. But back to Thayer Mumford, I think with Mumford, them not getting a right tackle, like a real one, like in the first or second round or something like that. I mean, they took Brock Bowers. They could have took a right tackle to kind of fill that position. I mean, I think even Fuaga, Troy Fulton, any of those guys were on the board, right? I mean, so they could have took one of those guys and put him at right tackle and kind of made that position kind of a battle between Munford and a first round pick. But now it's Munford versus a guy who's basically a project who I feel like they overreached on with DJ Glaze. So that's his job, right? I wouldn't expect anybody to beat him at this point. That's his job. The only way that he would lose it is like he's terrible in the preseason. He would have to be absolutely awful, and I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't think he's gonna be bad like that, or he won't even play that much. You know what I mean? Like, so that's gonna be the type of thing with Munford. I don't expect him to lose that job, and what I'm saying, he's been a pretty solid player for 2 years. He's not bad. He's a solid right tackle. Like I said, and that, like I said, you don't need 8 Pro Bowlers in your offensive line. You know what I mean? Like half the Cowboys offensive line in the '90s, like one of those guys in the Hall of Fame. We didn't half the other people can't even name them, but we all know that they were serious and they were like one of the best offensive lines of all time. But most people can't even name the other 4 besides like I think like Larry Allen. So that's
No,
kind of how that goes with offensive line play. It's really just about the continuity, and I think if Mumford is around the same guys, he'll play well.
No, absolutely, dude, absolutely. And also, just real quick, like you're saying about the Glaze pick, yeah, I was a little confused about that too. And when I looked at your guys' depth chart right now, you guys have him listed at guard. So that's also going to be something very interesting to monitor because I don't know where that's going to go because you guys spent pretty good capital on him. There has to be some kind of plan in place, but I'm with you where I don't necessarily understand exactly what that plan is as of right now either.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. That pick was confusing. I just, I, you know, it was even kind of like out of the realm of what he usually drafts based on size. I mean, he did come a lot lower at the combine, but I didn't like that pick at all.
So obviously, like, you guys have kind of gone through like a little bit of a coaching carousel over these last couple of years. And, when Rich Bisaccia was the interim head coach, I know there was a lot of players and, some fans that wanted to keep him, and they ended up going and getting Josh McDaniels. And now we're in the situation where you have another interim head coach, you hire AP, he goes out, blows out the Chargers, your rivals, and like, so everyone's like trying to keep him. Is within like the Raiders fan base, is the hype for AP real? And like, is that, I mean, it seems real to us from the outside, but like on the inside, is that kind of what most fans are rooting for, was to keep AP?
Oh yeah, yeah. AP was a huge guy because I mean he's a Raiders fan himself. Kind of brings that Raiders element, and that's why the fans love him. Like doing the Raiders chant after the wins and things like that. Yeah, Raiders fans are huge AP fans. Like it's gonna be hard for AP. He literally have to go like 0-8 or something like that for them to start to fall off with him. I think he really has that fan base. They really love everything that he does. All the moves. They kind of act like that he makes all the moves, and really he's just a motivator. I think that one thing I like about him, I kind of feel like he's more of a Dan Campbell type of guy. That he's not. Yeah, does he know X's and O's on defense? Yeah, he does. He knows a lot of X's and O's on defense. Definitely, has his hands there. He has Marvin Lewis in there with him and Patrick Graham, and they're cooking on defense, and they do a lot of great stuff. And he elevates your linebacker room right away. Robert Spillane was not good. He came into the Raiders. He became a little bit better. Became a better player. So that's I think that's AP. That's his teaching. That's him. Working with those linebackers. So I think that's one thing that really stands out about AP.
Moving from AP to another new coach you guys have, in Luke Getsy. How do you feel about the offense? Now that with your new OC, so you've already kind of answered it for us, but so who do you prefer at quarterback? Do you want to see AOC or do you want to see Gardner Minshew?
I would rather see AOC at quarterback at this point. I mean, I think that's kind of the thing that the Raiders need to do at this point is kind of put AOC as that guy. And Gardner Minshew, he has some cool stuff that he likes to do, and the fans are really love Gardner Minshew. But I think his biggest issue is just arm talent. Arm talent is not very good at all, and it kind of stands out on film of what he really tries to do, and some of the things that he can do downfield. Like he almost got Michael Pittman killed last year. I mean that was one of the things that Minshew really stood out on film with him is that the arm just isn't something that he does and even push the ball down the field. He can't do it. He doesn't have the arm talent for it. And that's why he went in the 7th round. And that's why I hope Aiden O'Connell, ends up beating him out. I think Aiden O'Connell is that guy leading the way. He was the first guy to do press conferences and stuff like that. And kind of the Raiders.com and the website is really promoting him as a starter. Like they're promoting him as a starter. When they picked up Brock Bowers, they had him as a starting quarterback, not Gardner Minshew. Those type of things. So kind of it's there that he is the guy. They're just not out there saying it. They haven't just came out and told us, right? And they're kind of keeping it a competition. But I'm interested to see how in preseason how much Aiden O'Connell plays and Gardner Minshew plays and if it's actually a real battle. So this could be interesting when that goes down.
No, it's a great. Well, no, Hunter, you go first.
I honestly think I actually like both of them. I think they could both be good. I really like what Gardner Minshew did in the Colts offense last year. I think that was a lot of Shane Steichen, though. I think that's a big part of it. But I will say, as a Bears fan personally, I'm very interested to see how the Getsy offense functions because with Justin here, it was always an argument of, well, is it the offensive coordinator? Is it the quarterback? I think it was both. But I also do think the fact that Getsy got a job fairly quickly once he was let go is a little bit telling. So I do think his offense works, and I do think you guys have both the two quarterbacks that could run it efficiently. So I'm very interested to see how just kind of the offense operates and how efficient it is this year.
Yeah, because when it comes to Luke Getsy, man, I think with Getsy and how he used Justin Fields is a topic that, a lot of people try to say that, he didn't fit what he wanted to do and, try to mix it up. I just think with Getsy, I think Getsy is a very vertical offensive coordinator, right? So when you're a vertical and that's the best thing that you do and you want to throw around field all the time, and, he did this at Mississippi State, he brought those things over from Mississippi State to kind of bring it over to Justin Fields as well. But when you want to throw down the field all the time, especially when you have Justin Fields, who's not an anticipate, he just doesn't anticipate that well, and he doesn't, anticipate windows or throw the ball on time. And a little bit is because of his windup and some of the things that he liked to do. You kind of limit your offense, right? And then his short passing game is just kind of on the weaker side. So it's hard for him to manufacture yards, right? Like, because when you're playing in the NFL these days and you're offensive coordinator, like Kyle Shanahan, those guys, they can get 6 yards easy. They can get 6 yards. They can get 10 yards easy. It's those things. That's what seemed like that was Getsy's issue. Like, he couldn't get 6 yards, right? But he could get like a 40-yard play downfield to like DJ Moore or even like a screen and mix it up that way. But sometimes you just got to run that quick slant. That's some that quick in and some of those other things. And he didn't mix it up in the short game. And that was a knock at him actually at Mississippi State too. I mean, at Mississippi State, that was the knock on them. All those SEC people, how they are in the South. So he threw the ball deep too much, right? And he had like Nick Fitzgerald with a 51% completion percentage, and Nick Fitzgerald had a higher completion percentage the year before. And you see how Justin Fields' completion percentage never was that high either. Is because they're throwing downfield so much, and when you're throwing downfield that much, you're not going to have that high of a completion percentage. You gotta get those easy, passes. But I think in the run game, he's really good though. I think what they like to do, how he mixes it up in the run game, how he attacks defenses in the run game. He does a lot of those great things. He even attacks teams in the passing game as well. So since he attacks teams in the passing game as well, he does a lot of good things game planning, but it's all vertical. He knows how to attack teams vertically, but sometimes you got to be able to attack teams short. But I think they'll be able to run the ball really well. And, that's the problem with like you figure you want a bigger arm quarterback than Gardner Minshew, because he's not gonna be able to do what Luke Getsy does really well, and that's gonna cause a problem. But so we'll see how that goes. So.
Well, that's so funny about the bigger arm quarterback too. I agree with you. Is when there was like those rumors about the Raiders calling about Justin Fields, I was hearing from some Bears or just seeing from some Bears insiders that they were actually kicking the tires on Tyson Bagent and not Justin Fields when they called the Bears. And my thing is, Bagent has an even weaker arm than Minshew. So it was just interesting to me. But I guess like Getsy and the Bears just love Bagent. But no, I think it'll be really interesting to see this year.
My thing, the way I'm looking at it, I'm sure you are too. You want to give AOC a chance to see if he can make a leap. It would just be malpractice not to, right? But then, if he can't and he doesn't make a leap, you have basically a top 3 backup, in the league is your backup. So it's always, and that's a great situation to be in when you have a lot of faith in the guy that can come in, who can actually still win you games. Yeah, he's more like, I'll compare him to like Devin Leary out of this year's class. Like the short intermediate game, it's really, really nice. But yeah, that deep ball, it's like, yeah, man, it limits the game plan. But albeit in a backup role, Minshew definitely, I think, has a chance to really thrive for you guys, no matter what situation he gets thrown into. I think it's a great situation you guys have with the fact that you don't know what you have in AOC yet.
Yeah. I think when you bring in Minshew, you expect him to kind of be that backup guy. I think he's one of the best backups in the NFL. Don't get me wrong, right? He's one of the best backups in the NFL. You really want him to come in there and, if like AOC goes down or if they drafted a quarterback and that guy went down, you would expect Gardner Minshew to come in there and play well, right? And that's what he did last year for the Colts. The quarterback went down. He almost helped them get to the playoffs. But, they kind of didn't make the playoffs because they had Gardner Minshew, right? So as the starting quarterback. So that's why you want him to be the backup. I think it was more the price for people, like and how much they paid for him, even though I think it's a little bit kind of, a push for people kind of talk about how much they paid him, even though I think that, that the amount was a little high. But, once you saw the guarantees and stuff like that, it looked like just high price backup money. So, it wasn't something that, anybody should freak out about, in my opinion. So I still think that he has that backup ability where he can come in and kind of just steer the ship. He's going to keep the ship going. It's going to keep going. And then if AOC comes back, then he's able to keep playing. But I just don't expect him to win the job. And, it would be a little bit disappointing on that one, too. If he won the job, I would expect him to kind of take that leap and become basically, I would expect an AOC, to take that leap and not just Gardner Minshew be able to become the starter for the Raiders.
No, no, totally. No, I'm sure and again, that's best case scenario for you guys. But then at the least, you, like we're saying, where you at least got a really good backup that's going to be able to hold things down for you and potentially get you guys to the playoffs, which I feel like is the perfect transition to our next question we wanted to ask. Is for you, what are you thinking is the ceiling for this team this year? And then what are you thinking the floor is going to be?
So, actually, I think they have a higher floor than people think, because I think they're going to be really good at defense. So it's really going to be on the offense to me. So I think their floor is at least 7 to 8 wins. I think that's their floor. I think they're going to be at least a mediocre football team. That's at least. I mean, I don't think they're going to be a bad football team that, like, the ball bounces. It's a funny football. It's a pigskin. It bounces, the wrong way. There could be some games that maybe they don't, they lose, that maybe they should have won. And some of those things might happen. But I still believe they're going to play good enough defense that they're going to win 7 to 8 games just based on how good their defense is. Now, if the offense takes a huge leap, then I think they have a playoff shot. I think they have a shot at making the playoffs if they don't have to depend on the defense all year. So if they can mix it up that way and kind of play good offense and play good defense, then you'll have that them winning more games than people expect. But at this point, I really expect them to be like at a 7 or 8, kind of like they were last year, because I know they're going to play really good defense. It's just, is the offense going to be consistent enough to get them over the hump? Because when they had AP, they were 5-4 last year, and they weren't a 8-win team last year. So I feel like they gotten better, and they've brought some better players in. So I expect them to kind of stay in that area.
Gotcha. Just to kind of wrap it up here with kind of more of a fun question, just obviously being a Raiders fan, I'm sure you've seen a lot over the years. What is just kind of one of the funniest or like most fun stories you have about being a Raiders fan? Like a season you watched, a game you enjoyed, anything like that?
All right. So most fun, probably one of the most fun games I watched is probably live. Probably when I went to the Raiders game, Derek Carr's like kind of his like breakout game in 2015, where he kind of showed people that he actually might be pretty good. His rookie season was a little up and down, but they were playing the Ravens, and the Ravens are a really hype team. And that was my first time being in the black hole. And, he had this comeback victory. I mean, they were down like 30-20 with like about 10 minutes left, and he led 2 game-winning drives. I still have the video of how crazy the black hole was going, because this was back in Oakland when they were playing in Oakland. So yeah, that was probably one of my favorite memories. But kind of one of the funniest memories I can think of is when Khalil Mack's rookie year, when they were 0-10 and they were playing the Kansas City Chiefs on Thursday night, and they got that sack against Alex Smith, but the game wasn't over. They're like 20 yards behind. They almost get like an offside or something. If the Raiders didn't call timeout, because they had to, because they're about to get offsides, because they were doing like some kind of dance, and while the Chiefs were like kind of loading up. So that's probably one of the funniest moments that I can think of.
Well, thank you so much, Marcus. We appreciate you hopping on. Do you want to let everyone know where they can find you on socials or on YouTube?
Yeah. You can find me on socials. Twitter at @DMarkJohnNFL. You also, for TDL, if you want to go on TikTok, if you use that, Taped Online on TikTok, Instagram, TDL.Raiders for Instagram, and then also for of course YouTube, Tape Don't Lie. That's the Raiders film channel right there. Also, you can check that out on Spotify and Apple, and or you can find all your podcasts. Also, shout out my other little podcasts. I do a little pocket awareness and some quarterback podcasts, so you can look out for that too.
All right, well, thank you guys so much for watching. If you don't know ball and want to know ball, be sure to subscribe. Leave a like. Let us know in the comments what you think the Raiders record prediction will be this year. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your night.